It's 2:01 a.m. Venezuela time on January the 3rd, 2026. Caracas is dark, but not the usual darkness of a sleeping city, but rather the complete artificial blackness that comes when each and every single transformer, substation, backup generator has been systematically killed by an invisible hand reaching through cyberspace. Somewhere above the clouds, you see there was a constellation of aircrafts. Not one aircraft, not two aircraft, typical US American. 151 planes flying in from 20 bases in 3 countries. And yet, not a single Venezuelan radar operator saw them coming. Actually, Nicolás Maduro was in the basement of Fuerte Tiuna, the military complex. The man who has ruled Venezuela for over a decade, the man protected by many things, protected by state-of-the-art Russian air defense systems, Chinese surveillance equipment, and even Cuban intelligence officers. This man is about to learn that none of this matters. Because the Americans, this time, didn't just come with soldiers. You see, they came with algorithms. So welcome to the AI Cookbook Show. I'm Malcolm Bechota, and today we're going to break down not what happened from a military operation perspective, that you can read on the New York Times, but specifically how artificial intelligence made this happen. So yeah, action, let's go.
Flip the switch, the circuit's live. Digital dreams, they thrive and strive. Recipes coded to feed your mind, serving knowledge of the AI kind. Welcome to the AI Cookbook Show, where the data streams and the insights flow. Tune in slow, let the rhythm grow. For every soul in the know and those who don't.
Now I want to start this episode with a very bold statement. I believe that there are only 2 countries on earth that could have pulled this off. What happened yesterday in Venezuela? The United States or Israel. Why? Because they have the most advanced AI military tech stack on the planet. And it's like working with companies. It's so interesting. You know, you sit down with companies and you try to show them AI and where it brings values. And then you meet them 6 months later, and what have they done? They're still writing emails with AI. And then you have these 1-2 players that you've been working with together maybe for a year or 2, and they really get it. They understand, my God, AI shouldn't be used to write emails. AI should be used for everything. And the US military and the Israeli army, they really get it. Now, I want to be clear. Obviously, this operation just happened. We don't know exactly what happened. We have already a pretty good idea because we know which military branches were involved. We know that the CIA was involved, the Navy, Cyber Command, the Delta Forces, and the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. But their tech stack, their AI tech stack, has been building for years. And it's pretty public what they already use AI for. So we don't know exactly which part from Project MAVEN they used, if they used it to analyze the drone footage or Palantir's Gotham platform. We're all going to go into all these things. But I can tell you that these systems exist, that they're operational, and almost certainly they were available to the commanders who planned and executed this operation. AI involvement is not only plausible, it's 100 billion% likely. It's not yet confirmed, but let me take this episode to frame it to you and exactly explain how the US American military is currently using AI. So what exactly did happen? So before we dive into the AI part, let's just establish the facts for everybody. Because what happened yesterday morning is already being called one of the most sophisticated special operation raids since the Bin Laden mission. The operation is codenamed Absolute Resolve. It began with Trump giving the go-ahead at, I think, 11 p.m. Eastern Time on January the 2nd from Mar-a-Lago, typical Trump. And within minutes, aircrafts were launched from bases across Florida, Puerto Rico, and the USS Gerald Ford carrier strike group, which is positioned already in the Caribbean. It went so fast. Trump gave the go-ahead from Mar-a-Lago, and Cyber Command initiated that infrastructure blackout across Caracas just 2 hours later. 15 minutes later, the first wave of strikes hit the Venezuelan air defenses. You know, the Russian ones, the state-of-the-art ones, S-300VM, the ones that should pick up any fly coming into the airspace. Boom. Within 20 minutes, they were gone. And then the Delta Force operators breached Fuerte Tiuna compound, and only 13 minutes later, they had Maduro and his wife captured. The total ground time was only 13 minutes for this operation. And today, Maduro arrived at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. Now, those are the facts that everybody will report. But here's what makes this different from every single operation that came before. You see, the intelligence platform, the intelligence preparation, the electronic warfare, the multi-domain coordination, all of this is running on artificial intelligence operations systems that did not even exist 5 years ago. And what many, many people don't realize is that this operation didn't happen in isolation. So this operation, it went so fast. Yes, but we know that it didn't start on January the 3rd. In fact, it began in August 2025, when the CIA ground teams infiltrated Venezuela. And it's so crazy for me, because Trump was speaking about it very openly. Now, what were they doing from a tech perspective? Well, they were building a digital twin of Nicolás Maduro's life. And when I say digital twin, I don't mean just a simple surveillance file. I mean a comprehensive AI-powered model that would predict many things that would help them, that would predict with startling accuracy where Maduro would be at any given moment, who would he be with, and what his security posture would look like. Malcolm, that sounds like science fiction. It's not. Go and listen to the AI drama episode that we made about the systems that the Israelis are using. The AI-powered systems like Where's Daddy? The Israelis were able to understand when operatives were working and coming home. And when they came home, that is when they strike them. And they did not use only listening devices or drones. No, they used AI for this. And they called the system Where's Daddy? And when Daddy's coming home, this is when the missiles were thrown onto their housing complexes, taking their family with them. Now, Maduro is a president. It's not just a Hamas operative, yes. But Maduro was rotating between 6 to 8 different secure locations. But the pattern of life analysis conducted by AI systems is tracking every single movement. Now, what helped them, and what the press will also tell you, is that there was a human source inside the regime that was additionally providing real-time confirmation of his location. Now, despite all of the AI, this operation still requires boots on the ground. So CIA operatives spent 5 months building relationships, recruiting sources, conducting physical reconnaissance that no satellite can obviously replace. Now, the human source close to Maduro obviously, ultimately provided the final confirmation that he was in Fuerte Tiuna basement and not in any of the other safe houses. But where does AI then come in? Well, let's talk about Project MAVEN. Project MAVEN is the Pentagon's flagship AI initiative. We talked about it briefly on another episode. It didn't start yesterday. Actually started 9 years ago. It originally started in 2017 just to help analyze drone footage. It has evolved into something far, far more powerful. So, the MAVEN Smart System is now operated by the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. The contract size of this, $1.3 billion. We as humans, we just cannot process satellite imagery. We can, but it would take weeks or years. We cannot process drone footage. We cannot process radar returns. We cannot process infrared sensors. And wait, topple this with analyzing social media feed simultaneously. It's not possible for us humans to do that. Now, let me try to put in perspective how amazing AI is to do that. What took 2,000 analysts in 2003 now takes 20 people with Project MAVEN. This is 100-fold increase in efficiency in only 20 years. Okay, which company would like to have a 100-fold increase in efficiency through AI? And it's not only that. Project MAVEN performs many steps in the military kill chain. So, for example, it identifies, or AI-enabled identification, whoa, there's a target there. It locates the movement of the target. Maybe the target is with other people. Maybe the target is with a family, like with the Israeli system called Where's Daddy? And then it says, okay, here are 20 targets around. Let me help you prioritize this. This is not new. It's currently being used, for example, in the Ukraine. It's used by the Israelis. And for sure, it is being used by the Americans when they went on the ground to Venezuela. What does a human then need to do? A human needs to just approve and execute. That's wild. We also spoke in the episode about the Israeli systems that the time to look at the system output and approve if a kill should be done, you will be shocked, is 20 seconds. The operator has to sit down and for 20 seconds decide, should I pull that kill switch on that person, which is thousands of kilometers away from me, or not, without even being on the ground? And this operation, you can be sure, is AI-dominated intelligence preparation. Why? Because it's just not possible to go through all this type of data. The last mile, yes, the last mile to go and capture the president, you needed Delta Force operators. That last mile is 100% human, okay? And even if Trump gives the final order, AI is a force multiplier. It's not a replacement for human judgment, but let's be honest. If you have 20 seconds to decide for a kill switch where AI went through hundreds and thousands of files, is it not really a replacement for human judgment? So, you know that I was working at Novartis. And why was Novartis such an opener for me in terms of what AI can do? Because when you're working as a medical advisor for a medical brand, it's wild. You get new papers or new information every second or third day. And you get hundreds of pages sometimes of studies from your competitors. It's very difficult to synthesize all of this information. And I saw firsthand how AI can transform pattern recognition, how it can help an employee of Novartis to now each and every single day read through hundreds of pages. I mean, this was the time of ChatGPT 3.5. This was December 2022. And that was such an eye-opening moment for me. And now that we've delivered, 50, 60, 70 workshops, some of them with Fortune 500 companies, I still see that they're just writing emails with it. But the military application that I just spoke about is a very similar principle as in enterprise, just with dramatically higher stakes. What are you trying to do? You're trying to do pattern recognition with complex data sets. Now, one example is the NGA. It's that National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Many have heard about the CIA, the NSA, whatever. But the NGA is wild. The NGA is one that turns raw satellite data coming in gigabytes, terabytes of satellite data per second into actionable intelligence. Now, what have the NGA probably provided for this operation? Well, first of all, 3D mapping of Fuerte Tiuna. This is what it looks like. If they were defensive positions which were changed an hour before, 10 minutes before, 2 minutes before, that change of detection would have been processed by the AI algorithms of the NGA and passed to the operatives on the ground, either the Delta team or the CIA operatives. And not only that, remember that target identification? Well, yeah, but also the long-term target identification for the ones for the Venezuelan air defense systems. And obviously anything that is real-time updated. Because here's what has changed in imagery intelligence. The NGA, probably since ChatGPT came out, has invested heavily in multimodal AI. You could have computer vision algorithms 3 years ago, but it was very difficult to analyze them in real time. And now with multimodal AI, the same multimodal AI which is behind Gemini, which is behind ChatGPT, that can process not just images, but say, you know what, I see that this has moved. And that you can combine with text, audio, and other data sources simultaneously. My God. Now, let's extrapolate this. The NGA director still says, well, now it is processing insights and there are humans that are looking at it and passing it to the teams on the ground. But the NGA director stated in June 2026, which means in half a year, MAVEN will deliver 100% generated intelligence. No more stupid human operative in the middle. No. Now, what does this mean? This means what happened to Maduro, you can be 100 billion% sure that the US will launch more of these operations. Why? Because if they're powered by AI and not restricted by humans, they are easier to execute. It's the same like in your companies. It's the same like in the management consulting companies. We're always explaining, look, the roles that are going to disappear or the ones which you should really trash already now is get rid of all these analysts. Why? Empower the people above, empower the managers to sit down and build cloud dashboards and look at analytics and look at all the financial data of, 3 different factory floors over the last 6 months with cloud code. So these commanders, do you understand what they just said? They said the insights will be 100% AI generated. We don't want that analyst in the middle. Why? Analysts get tired, analysts oversee things, or human analysts are increasingly reviewing AI recommendations rather than conducting a primary analysis. It's impossible. It is impossible. So the Venezuela operation was not one of the major operations of 2026. Well, the year has started well. This is the 4th day of the year. You can see that the balance will have shifted entirely. No European government can pull this off because they are sleeping on the topic of AI. No European government can pull this off. So the balance has not only shifted geopolitically, it has shifted in terms of capabilities. Now, after this operation, an RQ-170 Sentinel stealth drone was spotted landing in Puerto Rico. In case you don't know that RQ-170, it's a fantastic AI weapon. What is it? Sometimes it's nicknamed that Beast of Kandahar or Wraith. It's a flying wing stealth drone from Lockheed Martin. Pause this thing if you've never seen it and Google RQ-170. It's an absolute beast of a weapon with no human inside. It's the same platform that was used, by the way, to look at Osama bin Laden's compound before the 2011 raid. But what is so amazing about it? Well, it's packed with systems that need AI to analyze it. First of all, it has this SAR. SAR can image through cloud and darkness. It's got the electro-optical infrared cameras. And what do we know? Well, AI is used as image stabilization in these infrared cameras, because you can imagine that such a drone is going through immense turbulences on top when it's flying at 50,000 feet. And it's got the SIGINT packages, signal interference that intercepts communications, so it flies above your head, and if you're having a call, it picks that call up. No need for fiber optic, no need for the NSA. It flies above your head, and it picks up that call. And like in your companies, what does it do? It records the call, it transcribes the call, and it analyzes the call. And if there are any action items like in your companies, when I'm repeatedly telling you to start recording each and every single call, if there are any action items, it passes them on to the operator. And obviously LiDAR systems, etc. But Malcolm, you said it was used to fly over the compound of bin Laden. That thing is not that new, yes. But what's really new about it is that modern variants have autonomous pattern recognition. They don't need to send back to Washington. I see now, a truck with 20 insurgents on it. What should I do? No. They can track these specific vehicles and identify these individuals just by their unusual movement pattern. Actually, there's a name for this. It's called gait analysis. And it's used basically, you predict behavior based on historical data, right? Okay, so now they knew where he was. What did they do? Well, let's talk about the replicas that we built back in the days and the replicas that the US Army is building with AI. We already now know, General Kane actually revealed that Delta Force trained on a full-scale replica of Maduro's compound, built in Kentucky. Now, how is this different from bin Laden's raid in 2011? Back then, you can be sure that building a replica took months of painstaking work from satellite photos, limited ground intelligence, and physical images. But today, remember these drones? Well, they have LiDAR-equipped drones, so they can map a building's exact dimension, probably in a single pass. And then you have photogrammetry AI that creates centimeter-accurate 3D modules from video footage. You don't even need LiDAR, you just need video footage. And then the NGA, remember the NGA, where they have machine learning systems that process satellite imagery and detect changes daily. Every single day, this Delta Force that is training on a replica in Kentucky can train on an adjusted replica that is probably even alive. Oh, they just put the battery 50 meters on the right. Okay, let's move it 50 meters on the right. Delta come in. You can not only build a replica, you can build a real-time replica. And that was not possible 15 years ago. Now, I want to tell you what probably one of the most futuristic systems that is relevant to this operation is called Titan. You might have heard Titan. Titan was in the news about 3/4 of a year. Titan is an AI-defined military vehicle. It was developed by Palantir. Actually, many of these systems that we're talking about here have a Palantir stamp. And it's been delivered to the American Army, to the, multi-domain task force, I think it's called. And it's an AI-defined military vehicle. What is that, man? I have no idea what is an AI-defined military vehicle. Okay. Imagine you mount something on a tactical truck, and Titan systems will pull data information directly from satellites, including Mr. Musk's SpaceX Starlink. Because you can imagine that it would have been relatively difficult for the CIA operatives to use the internet on the ground in Venezuela. But SpaceX Starlink, they probably have a decoded direct link to Mr. Musk to provide AI and tactical edge on the ground. You don't need to transmit data back and forth to the headquarters. What Titan does is so cool. It's like having a huge data center on the ground that is analyzing all the data for you in the field. And what does it do? It goes back to the operatives on the field, and it provides real-time targeting data to frontline forces. Think about what this means for the kill chain. Essentially, it is a kill chain compression, because military planners talk about kill chain compression. Kill chain compression means you don't find the target, and then you communicate back to whatever the base is, and they are operatives and analysts, and they're looking at the data, and they're taking a decision, and they come back 5 minutes later and they say, yes, go ahead. And in that time, a lot of things can happen. No. The time to reduce from detecting a target to engaging it in Afghanistan and in the Iraq wars back in the days, sometimes assembling these intelligence packages took days and then hours to approve. And by the time the forces arrived, the targets had often moved. Remember what we told you about Where's Daddy and systems used in Israel? 20 seconds. So now the kill chain is compressed to near instantaneous. Human source, satellite images verifies the compound. AI system says, look, 90% chance this is a threat. And then all of this is fused into one single operational picture. And this is so fantastic. Now, again, you guys must think I'm a total addict of war. First of all, let me condemn war. Obviously, I think that war is really bad. Obviously, when the Ukraine conflict, exploded, we took on Ukrainian refugees who stayed at our place. So obviously, we see firsthand what this thing can do to us. But why am I so invigorated? Because I'm trying to explain to executives, look, if the US Army can do it, you can do it too. Because when I explain Titan to executives at Nestle or Johnson & Johnson, their eyes widen because they realize the same edge computing principles apply to their supply chain, to their manufacturing, or to them understanding their customers. The military is just applying the exact same concepts, but just with higher stakes. The AI architecture behind it is exactly the same. And who is providing it? Our friend Palantir. Okay, Palantir, I believe we already made 1 or 2 episodes about Palantir, but let's talk how Palantir helped topple Maduro. Now, Palantir is that one company that represents the integration of AI into military operations. It was developed by the CIA, actually 2004, actually through CIA funding, and it's become one of the backbones of American intelligence. In 2005 alone, Palantir got an extension for Project MAVEN. How much? $500 million. The entire contract size with the US Army is a $10 billion contract size. And 75 contracts that they had were consolidated into one. So 75 means there were 75 different data and software contracts, and all of this got consolidated into a single $10 billion, 10-year contract with Palantir. In other words, Palantir is now the operating system for the US Army. Palantir has many different systems. Let's look at Gotham. So Palantir Gotham, like Gotham City, yes, from Batman, is described as the operating system for defense decision-making. Malcolm, we understood AI is used to analyze things faster. Yeah, but now this is what every single company in the world is fighting with. You go into companies, what do they have? SAP. And they cannot mine SAP. They have Salesforce. They cannot mine Salesforce. Now, imagine you needed to make real-time decisions about life and death with SAP. That's what Palantir Gotham does. It integrates every type of intelligence from the NSA, from the CIA, the NGA, etc. All of this flows into Gotham, and it's got an AI-powered pattern detection mechanism. For example, one example. Now, you get a satellite image from Fuerte Tuna, and a phone intercept from Maduro security detail, and a report from a human source, which, by the way, is reporting directly to the CIA about his sleep patterns. And then, live while the operation is happening, social media posts from Caracas residents. Imagine trying to mine the situation in your company. But the US-American military, they can. Through Project Gotham, with Palantir, they're able to create a unified picture in real time. Now, in pilot projects, this is not just, this is real, but in pilot projects, the Navy was also involved. So we assume that ShipOS, you know, that AI that transforms naval shipbuilding, was also involved. What's that? Well, the US Navy, they announced the shipbuilding operating system, ShipOS. That's another 500 million partnership with Palantir. What does shipbuilding have to do with this operation? Well, the answer is logistics. Because the same AI that coordinates submarine construction, it's the same AI that can surge a carrier strike through enemy positions. The efficiency gain that they spoke about is wild. Look, they said we're able to go down from 160 hours to 10 minutes. Huh? Well, ShipOS is able to cut submarine schedule planning from 160 manual labor hours to 10 minutes. So next time, in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, when the US wants to take out the next dictator, submarine scheduling has gone down from 160 hours to 10 minutes. Piece of cake. Okay, but I don't understand. The Venezuelans, they have one of the most state-of-the-art weapons, the S-300VM. Because the S-300VM, the Russian air defense system, is not cheap. I think Venezuela spent up to $2 billion on this. Hey, and they have the Chinese GY-27 radars. And these are marketed as anti-stealth. Don't worry. When the stealth planes come of the Americans, you're going to see them. Venezuela just purchased 2 full battalions of the Russia's S-300VM. And they spent, as I said, $1 to $2 billion on this. Now, what Moscow obviously promises, they said, look, this is going to be an invulnerable umbrella, don't worry, against Western air power. Now, the problem that you have is, on the 3rd of January, that entire system was neutralized in under 20 minutes. How is this possible? And what does this have to do with Israel? Well, what I find fascinating is it's not the first time in the last couple of months or the last year or two that this system has failed repeatedly. In April, Israel struck Iran and they destroyed one S-300 battery. And then in October, the following Iran's ballistic missile attack on Israel, the Israeli Air Force came in again and they striked and they destroyed the remaining 3 S-300 systems that were protecting Tehran. So Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he said it. He said in a Knesset speech, hey, we destroyed all 4 S-300 batteries. Now, that left Iran essentially naked. The Israelis could fly in and out, untouchable, in the airspace without worrying. Do I know this? I don't. But it would be a huge coincidence if there wasn't any intelligence sharing between 2 allies, one of them who has already cracked the code how to disable the Russian air defense systems. Iran operated the S-300. Venezuela operated the S-300. While they were slightly different variants, they still share the very similar fundamental architecture, the same radar systems, same guidance package, and the same electronic signatures. Okay, I probably repeat it in each and every single episode here, that I used to work in oil and gas. Man, we're sick and tired. We already know that. Okay, now when I used to work in oil and gas in Africa or in the North Sea, in the UK, many of my colleagues were from Venezuela because Venezuela has top-notch oil field people. Why? Because they have the biggest proven reserves in the world. 303 billion barrels of proven reserves. That's a very high strategic asset. Today worth something like, $17 trillion. Like, we cannot even remember or cannot even understand that number. Okay. Now, Maduro, he thought he was protected, primarily also because Chinese companies co-own many different oil fields in Venezuela. If you want to understand how it works, let's say you come to Austria. I mean, Austria is different because in Austria you have OMV. Let's say you find oil in Mali. The country of Mali is not able to put the resources on the table to go and drill for that oil. So what they're going to do is they're going to do joint ventures. This is how it works. For example, BP will come and say, we can drill this for you, but therefore 50% of the oil is ours. And China has a lot of Venezuelan investments. They have CNPC, which is China National Petroleum Corporation, the big oil and gas company in China. They have oil and gas ventures with PDVSA. PDVSA is the oil and gas company in Venezuela. They have it in the Orinoco Belt. They have Sinopec. They have multiple partnerships with PDVSA in multiple blocks. A block is basically really a square on the map that says you can go and drill for oil over there. The China Development Bank, they have given lots of loans for oil arrangements to Venezuela. We'll give you money and you will give us oil. And interestingly enough, over 80% of Venezuelans' oil export went to China. Now you would say, my God, now there's a big war upcoming between the US and China. Frankly, I think China doesn't care. Because you can go and Google this. Go and Google Amos Global Energy Management. It's fantastic. Amos Global Energy Management, if you ask me, it's 100 billion% a CIA front. And we will read about this in the years to come, you will see what's happened. So Amos Global Energy Management is an American company set up in Houston. And when you see who's leading it, it's a gentleman called Ali Moshiri. Now, Ali Moshiri used to work as a president in Chevron Africa and Latin America. It's a startup when you go and check it out online. So this startup is able to buy oil and gas fields. Who did they buy it from? Sinopec. Not yesterday. Since February 2025, Sinopec quietly started selling its stake in a joint venture that they had with PDVSA. Now, the former head of Chevron's operations in Venezuela was buying back Chinese assets in Venezuela. So if you ask me, the Chinese were already seeing this coming. They were understanding this. Maybe there were some discussions behind the curtains where the Americans said, look, we're going to enter. If you want, sell us your fields. Now you still make money. Once we take over Venezuela, it's ours. And despite the rhetoric, the official rhetoric, that China is saying, this is unacceptable, we will not let that work, how does AI come into all of that? Well, first of all, Malcolm has to do his episode. And you need to understand financial flows. And you need to understand who owns what, and maybe analyze shipping data, corporate filings. All of this can be done with a prompt nowadays. Before, it was very difficult. And if Malcolm is using it to do his episodes, one day after the coup came out, you can be sure that intelligence agencies are using AI like hell to analyze the same commercial transactions we spoke about, shipping data, corporate filing, financial flows, etc. But what they don't want to hear is how AI negatively affects human beings. So when I saw what happened yesterday, I was invigorated to do this podcast because I thought to myself, my God, this is a new precedent. And then I remembered history. Hitler. Now, what did Hitler do before he was able to invade Europe? Because he had a problem. He had to test all these new weapons that he had, and warfare had totally changed since World War I. So what did he do? Well, he went to a new conflict, a new testing ground. Where did he go? He went to the Spanish Civil War. And Franco's nationalists, they asked the German military for support. And Hitler said, okay, not only can I support a fascist ally, but this is a great laboratory for a new kind of warfare. And what did he do? He deployed the Condor Legion. What was the Condor Legion? The Condor Legion was pilots, tank crews, ground support, etc. 19,000 people. And what did they do? They tested the Blitzkrieg. They tested the Blitzkrieg. Now, for those who don't know it, the Blitzkrieg is the lightning war. Before the Blitzkrieg, you had these Napoleonic wars, right? So you had one army meets another one and they get stuck and they fight. And in World War I, it happened the same. The Somme, Verdun, etc. For miles on end, they were stuck and just bombarding each other. Now, the Blitzkrieg was a radical departure. What did they have? Well, they had intelligence, similar to now. Okay, the enemy is there, that's what they're doing. They had huge speed. They were able to move in before the enemy could even react, similar to what happened now. They had combined arms. They didn't just go in with the tanks. They went with tanks, infantry, air power, all of them working at once. Air power coming, bombarding, tanks came in, and infantry afterwards. And deep penetration. They didn't just go on the front line, they went deep inside. I mean, they were in Paris really in a couple of weeks. And it created huge chaos. Now, when I see this, it's very, very similar to what I'm seeing now. What I'm seeing now is a new type of warfare. And the danger we have collectively as human beings, guys, think about it. The Blitzkrieg was tested by the Condor Legion in Spain from Franco. And then afterwards, they invaded France, and then they invaded Poland, and we had our World War III. I'm not saying that this is going to happen after Venezuela, but I'm saying that the pattern is very, very, very similar. The Germans had a new doctrine, which is called the Blitzkrieg, and they tested it in the Spanish Civil War. Now, the US, essentially, today, for those who don't understand it, they created an AI-powered warfare. And you could argument that the Israelis are already putting it in place, but the Israelis are putting it in place around them, around them. But the US essentially can fly hundreds or thousands of miles away and just depose somebody. Because the testing grounds until now were the Iran strikes, Venezuela, and they have the key systems. We know them. Titan, Palantir, MAVEN, etc. So what comes next? What happened before is that the Bin Laden raid, which was 15 years ago, you can be sure was 100% human-driven. Maybe 5% AI machine learning models back in the day. In today's Maduro operation, maybe we're already at 50-50. 50% AI, 50% human. The new reality that we have now is no president in the world, it doesn't matter if you're legitimate or illegitimate, elected or not, you will not be able to hide from US, American, AI supremacy. You will not be able to do that. Think about what the US just demonstrated. I mean, they demonstrated 5 months of AI-powered pattern of life analysis. Okay, let's find out where he is. And then they sent 150 aircrafts, many of them coordinated by Palantir, AI systems. It doesn't matter if you're protected by the Russian air defense systems. You will be neutralized in under 20 minutes. They will get you out in 13 minutes, and apparently without any US casualties, 0. And you will be put in front of US court 24 hours later. Now, if I was a South American country like Mexico, which is a huge importer of drugs to the US, I would be worried. But if I was China, I would be worried. I would rethink my position on Taiwan 5 times. Not because I'm pro or against Taiwan, nobody cares about my opinion. But because the US just demonstrated a superior capability that no other country in the world has apart from Israel and the Americans. And that's wild. But I saw it coming. You saw it coming. Actually, I had a keynote at a private bank. You know, these type of closed meetings, 10, 15 people. And over there was somebody from the Munich Security Conference. And what did he say that they're using AI for? AI war games simulation. This was not hypothetically would be nice to use AI. No, they are already using AI to do that. And if anything, Venezuela was just for Trump a proof of concept. And everywhere else, everybody else is thinking, can they do that to us? So we've entered a new era. What is this era called? It's called the cognitive age of warfare. In this era, like we said, decisions, decisive decisions. Should we move ahead? Should we not? Should we kill? Should we not? Should we send another aircraft? Should we not? Are not done 100% by a human. They're done probably at a very high percentage by an AI already today. And without AI-powered intelligence fusion that Palantir offers, the CIA probably would not have known where Maduro was. And they probably would not have been able to coordinate 150 aircrafts from 20 bases that converged simultaneously. Yet, the physical capture at the end was 100% human. Essentially, AI was used as a coordination tool. And now I come back to the number one thing that I preach to companies. Hey, don't use AI just to accelerate a process. Start using AI to revolutionize the way that you coordinate teams, that you coordinate shipments, that you coordinate operations. If the US American military can do it, so can you. So, what comes next? Maduro is already sitting in the detention center in Brooklyn. And he's waiting trials on, drug trafficking. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. Actually, Venezuela still doesn't know, are they going to be run by the US? Because Trump is saying, we will run the country. Nobody knows what that actually means. But every Russian ally right now who has bought for $1 billion an S-300 is wondering, are we next? Now, the price of Russian military hardware has just plummeted. Not all hardware, but for sure, their S-300 systems. They were two very strong showcases in Iran and in Venezuela, and both of them ended in catastrophic failure. And Beijing is condemning the operation, but remember, because they've sold a lot of their assets, they're unlikely going to escalate it. And for those who study AI, the business leaders listening to this, the lessons are crystal clear. Look, data fusion is not only decisive, it's a must in your companies. The same way that the American military is combining intelligence from multiple sources, you must do the same and use AI. And speed is needed, not only in a military sense, because we know that speed kills, and speed powered by AI kills even faster. But I hope that we've listened to this, and our thoughts should be not only of understanding that strategic warfare powered by AI has just radically changed, but that we, as a race, as a human race, have entered a totally new time. So yeah, Malcolm here with the AI Cookbook Show. Thank you. Malcolm out.